Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic Hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to talk to you about the series premiere of X-Men 97. It was a double episode premiere, and I'm going to do a recap and review of both episodes for you in this video. The first one was called To Me, My X-Men. And as it starts, in the wake of Charles Xavier's apparent assassination by Henry Gyrich a year prior, and the team's sanctioning by government entities, amid continued tensions between humans and mutants, Cyclops, Storm, and Bishop rescue a mutant kid named Roberto, aka the future Sunspot, from some ne'er-do-wells, the Friends of Humanity, who've gotten their hands on Sentinel technology despite it all supposedly having been destroyed by the UN. Scott is now the new team leader and an expectant father to Jean's baby, much to the chagrin of Wolverine, who obviously is, as ever, in love with Jean and doesn't cotton to being managed by the likes of Scott, who is laser-focused, pun intended, on realizing Charles's dream of human-mutant peaceful coexistence. To that end, he needs to find Boulevard Trask, who would seem to be in possession of Master Mold and to be using it to build mutant killer Sentinels. After Jean reads the mind of Mr. Gyrich in prison using Cerebro, they find Trask, take the Quinjet to his location, and very spectacularly take out his Sentinels and Master Mold. Back at the mansion, just as they're about to begin a little no powers recreational basketball game, they discover that none other than Eric Genscher, aka Magneto, has entered the professor's office, and when they confront him, he gleefully explains that Charles left everything he had owned and built to him in his will. And that's where that episode ended. The second episode was called Mutant Liberation Begins. As it starts, there's an accident at Coney Island which almost kills some people, but they're saved by Magneto, much to everyone's surprise. Magneto then saves some Morlocks, downtrodden mutants living in the sewers, from the ne'er-do-wells, the Friends of Humanity. Scott and some of the team are more concerned than others on the team about Magneto's intentions, so during a talk where she and Magneto talk briefly about their prior love affair, Rogue implores him to earn rather than demand their trust. So when the UN shows up to arrest Eric, he goes along with them and is put on trial. After a tense exchange between he and some UN members, the trial building is attacked by an anti-mutant human named Executioner and some angry human protesters, while Jean goes into labor, forcing Rogue to absorb a doctor's knowledge when he refuses to deliver the baby so that she can deliver the baby. Magneto takes Executioner and his jailers on a wild ride after Storm has her powers taken from her by Executioner when she steps in front of a shot meant for Eric. But he lets them live, earning his jailers' trust. Amid an announcement that the mutant nation of Genosha will be admitted to the UN, Storm, who learns from Hank that her power loss is likely permanent, departs the mansion after leaving a heartfelt goodbye letter for Jean to read to the team. As the episode ends, someone rings the doorbell at the mansion saying that they need the X-Men, and they appear to also be Jean Grey. But they may in fact be, some say, simply a Jean clone named Madeline Pryor, aka the Goblin Queen. However, earlier in the episode, Scott and Jean gave their baby the name Nathan Charles Summers, and in the comics, Nathan Charles Summers is not only Cable, but the child of Scott and this clone of Jean, not Jean. So, are we going to see that this woman who showed up at the door is actually Jean, and that the clone had at some point replaced her on the team without anybody knowing and then got pregnant by Scott? That would be interesting, because otherwise they're changing comic book canon, right? So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That's where that episode ended. So, because I'm an old person, I was around in 97 when this show was originally on and loved the hell out of it. They kind of lost me narratively a little bit when they went into the Days of Future Past stuff, but I still loved it. And this show was like watching the old show to me. The animation seemed like the old show, the voices seemed like they did in the old show, although I'm sure if I compared them, I'd hear differences, but they give the same impression. And I think the characterizations were all correct. I just think they nailed it. I think they recaptured the original greatness of the show from 97. So I really enjoyed it. They did some cool new things that I don't think they ever did before that caught my eye, which I thought was really cool. There's this one part where they're fighting the Sentinels, and Remy, aka Gambit, uses his ability to ignite objects with energy to ignites Wolverine's claws as they're fighting the bad guys so that he has that additional, energy on his claws, that additional kick to his adamantium claws. So I thought that was pretty cool. But they did some other stuff that seemed new to me that I didn't quite think worked. Like, for example, Magneto explains at some point that because electricity and magnetism share properties, he can control electricity too, kind of, or defeat it with his abilities. And I don't remember that being a Magneto thing. So either my memory is bad or they're retconning his powers, which I didn't love. And it wasn't so bad the first time they did it, but the second time they did it is in this scene where the UN confronts him, and before he decides to go along peacefully, he uses their helicopters against them. But instead of just like picking them up while the rotors were already spinning and angling them towards the group to kind of threaten them with the rotor blades, and like encase them, surround them with these spinning blades, he actually manages to use his power to remotely start the helicopters, engines and the rotors, which had stopped. And that's not a magnetic power. That's an electric power, right? Or a mind control power type of thing. So what has that got to do with the ability to move metal with your mind? I didn't love that. I thought that was a bit of a retcon. I could be wrong. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I also didn't love Magneto's outfit. I know it's from the comics, but it just looks horrible. Like, why? Why would you? That it's horrible. They could have kept the old outfit, even though he doesn't need the helmet anymore to protect from Charles. Although there are other mental mutants, so why would he not keep the helmet? I don't know. I think they should have kept his old costume and not given him this new one. Although he's trying to turn a new leaf, so maybe they're trying to, leave. I guess maybe why they did it in the comics is because they're trying to leave that behind completely, his evil past. So I don't know, but I think they should have done something else for the show. It looks ridiculous. Also, I thought they retconned Rogue's powers at one point because I know that when she touches people and she sucks like their energy out, they can die. And I know she like absorbs their mutant powers. But like, since when can she absorb somebody's knowledge and expertise that's not like a mutant thing? I don't remember her being able to do that, but now she can absorb a doctor's knowledge. And does he now not have the knowledge anymore? What's going on there? I didn't get that. Also, they did this very cool looking thing with Cyclops when he falls out of the Quinjet when it gets destroyed before they take on the Sentinels, where he's falling basically without a parachute. And instead of having one of the flying, mutants like Storm or Rogue catch him, he dives, like a skydiver would dive, sort of towards the earth. And then in the last couple of moments, he uses his eye beam to, I guess, dig a hole in the earth so that he can slow down more as before he hits ground. And you know what I'm saying? Like to give himself more room to slow down and not land so hard. But the beam that comes out of his head is super, super wide, like 100 times wider than his face. So I don't remember him being able to do that kind of thing. And also at one point, he uses his beam to back up from something. In other words, he repulses himself across the floor of a room by shooting his beam at something. And then when it hits it, it repulses him back. And I don't remember him being able to do that with it either. So I think they kind of retconned some of the powers here. And I'd be interested to know whether or not I'm correct. So if someone knows, you can let me know in the comments, or you can email me or tweet me or send them smoke signals. What are you going to do? Mental telepathy. Get on Cerebro and tell me. But yeah, I really like these first two episodes. I think it's off to a great start. This X-Men 97. I think they did a great job of recapturing the original. I'm going to get out of here. I'll be back to do a recap and review of the next episode once it's released. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.